advocating and pushing for when you feel something is right internally. I don't know if I want to say this, but I feel like for Black people, it seems like we always have to push.
When I had the appointment, they were asking me, what should we test for? So it was very uncomfortable for me. The whole experience was uncomfortable for me. I was in shock. I guess before that time, I self-diagnosed myself because of the amount of appointments I was going to. So there was no middle ground for me. I didn't know what this looked like. I didn't know what was going to happen. It's not like a cough or a cold and okay, in a couple of weeks it's going to be gone. I liked the way it happened because it didn't give me time to think. I didn't want to be stuck in my headspace, kind of worrying and being concerned. And we can throw on the clothes and the rags, but when the door closes at night and you're by yourself, that's when it hits you, the journey.
Yeah.
When you see the scars, the emotional.
All the time.
All the emotional baggage as well. Cancer didn't kill us, but for me, it killed things in us.
When it comes to mental health, I know that sometimes with men, Black, white, whatever, there's that pride of, no, this is not what we do. We don't cry. We need to be strong. We need to be men. We need to be these superheroes.
I remember I was under my pillow crying. And now I was on my bed just crying, just bawling because I had cancer, life wasn't great and all of that. And then when my son came in the house, I remember I went under the pillow so we couldn't hear him, and I kind of covered my face and I was just crying under the pillow. And then I thought, I need help. And I will always encourage men to speak their truth and seek professional help because for me, game changer, absolute game changer.
Hi people, welcome back to Her Voice, Her Strength. If it's your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and please don't forget to like this video. So, welcome to the month of June, where we celebrate and acknowledge that it's Men's Mental Health Month. So, today I have a special guest called Paul Campbell. He works for Cancer Black Care, a charity. And also, he's just a powerful man. I have witnessed him act on great events, one recently in April. If you missed that event, that was your loss. However, I do follow Paul on Instagram and he has a lot of impactful posts, which I believe will help you men or women that are watching. Although it's just men's mental health, I believe everyone can learn and listen. So I would like to welcome Paul Campbell to the room. Come, Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Welcome to Her Voice, Her Strength.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. So, where should we start? I think we should start about you telling us about yourself. I haven't given away what you've been through, what you've beaten. I think it'll be great for the audience to know a little bit about you.
So I'm Paul Campbell. I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, I'm a grandfather.
Wow.
I got 4 siblings. I got 4 children.
Wow.
I got 5 grandchildren. 5 grandchildren.
This is getting better and better.
I support Arsenal. In my spare time, I like spending time with my grandchildren, my children, my family, and my friends in my close circle. And I'm the chief exec of Cancer Black Care as my full-time job.
Amazing. That is very amazing.
Yeah, and I'm also a cancer conqueror. Been for a journey myself, and I'm one of the lucky ones that are able to still be here to share my story about my journey.
We thank God.
Indeed.
So, what cancer did you conquer?
I had prostate cancer. I was diagnosed in 2019.
Wow.
I saw an advert on telly when I was 40 years old, because I was diagnosed at 49. So I saw an advert on telly when I was 40 years old talking about a men's health check. It was like an MOT.
Okay.
So it took me 2 years to go to my GP to get this men's MOT. So when I go to the GP for my MOT, I approached the reception. I said, hi, I want to book an appointment for a men's health check. And they were like, why? I was like, I saw an advert on telly and it was talking about a men's health check, and you check all of these things, medical reasons. And then she asked me what was wrong with me, and I'm like, externally I'm fine, but internally I don't know. And when I said externally I was fine, they said, oh, because there's nothing wrong with you, we're not going to give you the test. And I
Oh.
was like, that's not what the advert said. The advert said the criteria was being over 40. I am over 40. It never asked or mentioned whether I'm well or unwell. So we had a bit of a back and forth. I had to become assertive. I had to become pushy. And eventually I was able to get the test. And I kept on getting the test. And then that was when I found out I was a diabetic, no
Wow.
symptoms. And then I had prostate cancer, no symptoms.
Wow.
So had I not have been pushy, had I not have stood my ground and fought my corner, I might have found out when it was stage 4, which obviously wasn't great, and it angered me because I believe that there'll be a lot of other men in my position that would be in the same situation as I did, and they'd walk away because they were turned down. And had I done that, then yeah, like I said, I could have found out at stage 4.
That is very interesting. I feel like this advocating and pushing for when you feel something is right internally. I don't know. I don't know if I want to say this, but I feel like for Black people, it seems like we always have to push, because that's the experience I had when I felt like there was a problem on my left breast. And then I had to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. Then, 3-4 months later, when I pushed again, and that's when the diagnosis of breast cancer came. So very interesting. So how many times did you have to push, or did you get the appointment then and then when you advocated, or was it like after a week, 3 days?
No, because I can be quite pushy when I want to be, and I had the information I wanted from the advert. It was very clear.
Okay.
So when I went to the GP, and again, it took me 2 years to go there, so I was very clear in terms of what I wanted to leave there with.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have left without an appointment. And even when I had the appointment, they were asking me what should we test for. So it was very uncomfortable for me. The whole experience was uncomfortable for me. I don't know if at that time, I don't know if it was a color thing or a race thing. I just knew that what I wanted, I was going to get. I was going to achieve that, come what may. Yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
You spoke it into existence and it happened.
Absolutely.
I love that. So you were diagnosed with prostate cancer, say about five coming to 6 years now, I think, if my calculations are good. Calculation could be a bit off. When you was diagnosed with that, how did you feel emotionally, mentally? What was going on in your life at that time?
It was difficult because I had to attend a number of appointments at different hospitals. And each time I attended my appointments with my GP or I did in hospitals, they were just saying, there's nothing to worry about. At the same time, I was going to 3 different hospitals as well as my GP, but yet there was nothing to worry about. And I kept on asking questions, and I kept on saying what it wasn't. It's not cancer. It's not this. But when they said the word cancer, that's when I kind of perked up. And I was like, but why would they say that? And then I started to do a bit of reading myself. And then I remember going for my results of my biopsy. And the oncologist was reading the notes and looking at me and reading the notes and looking at me. And then he was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then he got up and he hugged me.
Oh.
And then he said to me that I have prostate cancer. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was in shock. I guess before that time, I self-diagnosed myself because of the amount of appointments I was going to and because of what they weren't saying to me. And then to hear that news, to experience the way he delivered it to me, that kind of threw me as well. Because at that time, he seemed more upset than me at what he just said to me. So, yeah, it took a minute to process that information at the time, and I'd never been unwell in my life. I've only ever visited people in hospital. So there was no middle ground for me. I didn't know what this looked like. I didn't know what was going to happen. It's not like a cough or a cold and okay, in a couple of weeks it's going to be gone. This is something that I've never experienced before. I don't know this trajectory. And it was concerning, deeply concerning to hear, I've heard about cancer before. I didn't know anyone that had cancer.
Yeah.
You hear it on the news, you hear it on the TV, didn't
Yeah.
know anyone personal, but when they attributed that to me, it hits different.
I can imagine. How many times did you have to go to the hospital for them to keep on telling you there was nothing wrong? There's nothing for you to worry about. Was it? How long did the diagnosis take to come? 3 months, 4 months?
I think it was aggressively quick for me in
Oh,
terms of the letters, the phone calls, and hospitals. In terms of the hospital visits, it was
okay.
very quick. From one appointment to another, it went to aggressive by cancer.
Wow.
And in hindsight, I like the way it happened because
Okay.
it didn't give me time to think.
Okay.
I didn't want to be stuck in my headspace, kind of worrying and being concerned. So every step of the way, after every appointment finished, I knew when I was next going to be seen. And yeah, looking back, thinking back, I wouldn't have want to have been in a space where I had time to think and contemplate. I don't think that would have rested well with me. And when I was diagnosed, I disappeared from my family.
Okay.
I I just kind of wanted to be in my own space. I mean, my family were very close, and I kind of I ducked out just to process this and to understand what my trajectory looks like, and I guess to sit in my feelings as well. So I didn't tell them until after my surgery, which didn't go down well.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're gonna delve into
yeah.
that as well. Your family. Talk about family. I empathize with you. I totally did the same, sort of, but not sort of, but yeah, you kind of just pull away from family and people. And it's just like, for me, it was like, why me?
Mm.
Like, what the heck? Out of all my friends, me? How come this is happening to me? Not that I was wishing it upon them, but it was just, I eat healthy, I run, I do all these things, right? So it was a shock. I wanted to ask you, does cancer run in your family or does it not run in your family?
I was the first one to be diagnosed,
Okay.
but also in 2019, my older brother was diagnosed with prostate cancer,
Oh, wow.
and my younger sister was diagnosed with breast cancer,
Oh, wow.
all in the
That
same
same
year,
year.
all in the same year. So my brother got tested because I got tested and because I had
Okay.
cancer. And also my cousin in Birmingham a year later was also diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Wow.
And a year later, my another cousin was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in 2021, my dad died of prostate cancer as
Wow.
well. So yeah, it kind of runs in the family. And my dad,
Wow.
being an older Jamaican man,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if it was a broken foot, a broken toe, a head
Mm-hmm.
injury, he would just say he's sick. So he wouldn't go into the specifics about his illness. He would just say, "Me sick, me sick." So it was only when I went to visit him and I saw some of the medication that he was on that I was like, "I'm on that medication. You got prostate cancer." And he was like, "I told you I'm sick." And that was like,
Oh, wow.
wow. So I didn't know the family history at that time.
Okay.
And maybe if we'd known that, we might have gone for checks earlier.
Earlier, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I'm currently going through genetic testing
That's it, genetic testing.
to identify, if there is a kind of a gene in the family that's causing the cancers, because so many of us in a short period of time have had cancer. I'm actually going through that process now. So
Okay.
my extended family members might have access to earlier screenings if that's found out to be the case.
And that protects your children
Yes.
as well, which is really good.
Children, grandchildren,
Yeah, and everything
nieces,
like that.
nephews. Yeah.
That's really good. I'm really happy that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So, wow, I'm just trying to process the same year, like basically your family, just one thing after another, like bang, bang, bam. How did you navigate through that as a family, emotionally, mentally? Clearly, I don't know how, if I was in your shoes, I don't know how I will process that. And I understand why you probably pulled away as well, but that's a lot. It's like you're trying to save yourself, but then you feel as well you need to save your family. But personally, you tell us how you felt and emotionally and mentally and what you did.
It was heavy. Not being unwell before, ever being unwell before. So it was a shock to the system for me to try and navigate that, to process my feelings, you know, to try and follow the guidance from the oncology team. And then when my brother and sister were also diagnosed, it was again a shock to the system. I didn't look for the direct support from my family because I sort of went away, and I went away for kind of, I ducked out for over a year. My brother, who kind of ignored the signs and symptoms for nearly 3 years, was very blasé about his journey. And my younger sister, who possibly wanted more support from the family, didn't get it. So I think we were quite disjointed in terms of our journeys. We're all on separate paths. Although me and my brother both had prostate cancer, our journeys were completely different. He just had a prostatectomy where they removed the prostate. I had a prostatectomy, radiotherapy, and hormone treatment. So mine was much longer. And my sister with breast cancer. So 3 different journeys. I think in the beginning we were quite separated. Although we were talking, we didn't kind of group together to provide each other with support.
Yeah.
I think that came much later. Me and my sister were simultaneously having appointments at the same time. And there was a time I met her at the cancer center in Guys, and that was last, like, you know, can it get any worse? You know, I'm navigating these problems, and then my sister's walking in and she's also there having an appointment as well. So it was tough for us as a family, you know, because we are quite close, and I guess on these journeys they were individual, and I weren't there for my sister as much as I could be because I was on my journey.
Yeah.
And by the time my brother was going on his journey, because he didn't have treatment for nearly 3 years, we were both able to support him more because we were I was out of treatment and my sister was able to still support my brother a bit more. So, you know, much later, I guess we were able to talk more about our journeys and support each other, you know, emotionally, because I think, and you might agree with this, I think that those that haven't been on this journey don't really understand.
I totally agree.
They look at us and they think, oh, but you look so well. So for me, my body, my energy and my personality will never be the same. And I think only when you're talking to someone who's been through the journey will they understand. And everyone else can kind of get it, but they don't really get those lonely nights when you get emotional, when you see the scars, you know, the side effects, you know. And like, this is our disguise. We can throw on the clothes and the rags, but you know, when the door closes at night and you're by yourself, that's when it hits you, the journey.
Yeah.
You know, when you see the scars, you know, the emotional,
all the time,
all the emotional baggage as well. And because I also work in that environment, it's quite hard to take a break from it. And it can be quite triggering at times because I don't get a rest from it. And you know, my psychologist questions me doing this role, and because I like it and I'm good at it, she's like, but it doesn't mean you got to do it. But yeah, I'm staying put for now.
Wow. I just need to digest that because I really feel you're speaking my language, my emotions. You're speaking it, because that's the same thing I get. Oh, you know, you look great. You know, look like someone that's been through cancer. And it's like, sorry, what does that mean? You know, these comments are just like, you don't know them lonely nights. You don't know. And which I tell sometimes when I get invited to talk about my story, I always say, I cry every week, once a week, alone. I cry myself to bed. I have low moods because yes, I look at myself every day in the mirror and I can't run away from that one missing breast and that big scar across my chest.
Yeah.
But yes, we can fling on the clothes. It just looks like I'm normal and we look great and we're strong and all of that stuff. But no one actually gets it. No one gets the scar, the stench that cancer has kind of left, that stays there. Yeah, I mean, I can pray, I can be positive, I can do all of these things, but there's always a reminder every day in that mirror, all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, cancer didn't kill us, but for me, it killed things in us. And, you know, so I'm undetected, but I live with cancer because I live with the side effects. I live with the mood swings. I live with the weight loss. I live with the insomnia. And these are just, you know, things that just, just doesn't end, you know?
So you got diagnosed with insomnia?
No, I since my treatment,
You don't sleep well.
I just can't sleep.
Yeah, like me. Like no one gets it.
I'm just up.
Even my workplace doesn't get it. Like
Yeah.
I have broken sleep. I'll be sleeping 2-3 hours. I'm up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's sometimes it's not even just my mind. It's because of the pain. Because
Yeah.
obviously for me, I'm still. I think it's 2 years by August since I've had the surgery. But I'm in so much pain. So, and it's the medication that I'm on and stuff like that. The dry mouth, the sweats, the all of that stuff. So it's like
the stuff that people don't know about.
They don't know.
That's all of the behind the scenes
They
stuff.
just see, they just see you like, she's getting on with life, but they don't even know the time when, during the week, which is every week, I'm in just so much pain.
Yeah.
I need to lie down. Yeah. I need to have the nap. And even when I'm having the nap, I'm not sleeping. So it's just,
it's a journey.
I'm so happy to have this conversation because it's really that real.
Absolutely.
It's that real.
And I guess the lived experience for us now is the voice of reason because we've been there, we've seen it, we've done it, and we can, shout about it to those that are willing to listen.
Yeah.
So having these conversations are really important to raise awareness.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you said the voice, which is the name of my channel, Her Voice, Her Strength. I love that. How long have you been on that journey? Is it because you were very depressed at one point? Was there anxiety? What? Because for men, I've never heard a man to say that, yes, they are on a therapy counseling pathway, and when it comes to mental health, I know that sometimes with men, Black, white, whatever, there's that pride of, no, this is not what we do. We don't cry. We need to be strong. We need to be men. We need to be these superheroes. But I'm happy that you're going through the therapy. Tell us about it. How did you start it? Who, told you about it? And did you start straight away? Or was you also like most men, like, I'm not doing that?
I think because I've seen a psychologist in the past before.
Okay.
And I think it's an amazing space to be in when you can sit down and talk openly and honestly about your feelings, especially as a man. So I give myself a huge pat on the back for allowing myself to be vulnerable in those spaces. Being diagnosed with cancer, it was a shock to the system. And I didn't know what my trajectory looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then working in the cancer field, I believe that it was quite heavy for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to seek professional help.
Okay.
And at one point, I was seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist simultaneously at the same time, just to make sure that I was okay, and I can have the opportunity to talk and share and vent. Because as you may know, when you speak to people that don't have a cancer journey or story, I don't think they get it.
They don't.
And in order for me to, to continue to be a good father, a good brother, a good grandfather, I needed help to process what had happened to me.
Absolutely.
And I went in and I got the help I needed. And for me, it was just a place and a space where I could just be myself and share my story and get expert intel and advice. And there was one thing that my psychotherapist said to me, because I was very angry about my journey because I was denied treatment. And then when I was having my biopsy and I went for a pre-biopsy assessment, I remember that the anaesthetist said to me, we don't do general anesthesia here. It's going to have to be local. But in my pre-op assessment, it was already set that I'm going under. And then he said it to me so flippantly. And again, it was another occasion where I had to fight and battle and argue to get, to get my way. And I said, I'm coming to this environment, this hospital. I'm already anxious. I'm already scared. I've never been operated on before. And now you're telling me my pre-op assessment is not going to be what I agreed to. You're going to just change at the 11th hour. And then whilst talking to me, you're going to walk out of the room. So again, I had to become that guy. I had to become assertive. I had to become pushy. And then when I was sitting down talking to my psychotherapist, she said that every challenge you've actually had, you actually got the outcome you want. When they denied you treatment, you got the treatment. When you wanted the right anesthesia, you still got that as well.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way. I just saw the fact that, no, you can't have this. And actually, I did kind of get it the way I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to battle, I had to fight, I had to raise my voice, and I had to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm able to be that guy when I'm able to, or when time, or when it calls. But in those environments, it was very uncomfortable. You know, again, not knowing how to navigate the, you know, the cancer space, because again, I'd never had it before. And it was a lonely journey, being there on my own. I didn't know about the groups that I know about today, where people could have come and supported me, a buddy system, someone I could have spoken to on the phone to help me through it. I didn't have any of that. So being able to sit down and share my experiences, to get professional feedback, expert help for me kind of allowed me to stay grounded. And it was key that I was able to be vulnerable in those sessions and work my way through what I was dealing with, which was cancer. And again, I needed to be able to, you know, still be a brother, still be a father, still be a grandparent, and not let my diagnosis kind of pull me down. And I guess that's the reasons why I went to seek help. And again, you know, in our community, they do say a lot of men don't talk, but I think that that's something that we need to change, that we need to be open, honest, transparent with how we feel about our emotions. Because if you cage them up, you know, you just start to implode from the inside.
Yeah.
You know, so I always encourage, you know, my grandchildren, my children, be open, be honest, be transparent about how you feel, talk about your emotions, you know, and that's just something I'm gonna continue to do. So me and my brother and my sister, you know, all of us, in terms of sharing our journeys, we always talk about emotionally how this has affected us, you know, and again, you know, seeking help is self-care, you know, for your physical and your mental.
I like that.
And if I wasn't in those spaces, and if I wasn't able to go to that environment and then offload, that will be parked inside of me. And then how's that going to manifest? How is it going to come out?
Yeah.
But I'm able to go and get my glass emptied, because the help that I am getting for me is beneficial, it works, and I probably wouldn't be sitting in this chair without the help I've got along the way. For sure.
I love that.
For sure.
First of all, before we continue, I just want to say, good on you. And hats off to you.
Thank you.
And well done for actually seeking the right help and not feeling any type of shame or taboo, because that's how it is in our community, especially in the Black community and stuff. And well done for also just spreading that healing, you know, your voice, you telling your children, your grandchildren, your family, everyone to speak. It's amazing, because speaking also gives healing, or if you don't speak the right words, it can go left.
Yeah,
but obviously you're speaking the right words and you're speaking life, and you're already trying to speak in advance for the future.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know what the future brings. However, you're preparing everyone that's after you. You're preparing them. You know what? You need to speak. You need to ask for help. And there's no shame of asking for help. And I'm just so in awe. And I'm happy to be sitting here with you, man, Black man. And I don't like the word strong, but strong, of course. But, you know, to describe, it's just, wow, this is powerful. And I hope people that are watching, men, I hope this really speaks to them. It really speaks to them, and to get them to start speaking, because we're here to help.
Absolutely.
You know, your sisters, your family, your woman, whoever is by your side, we're here to help. And it's so important to speak, and I feel like that's how people die quickly, when they don't speak.
Yeah.
But when you speak, you're releasing, like you said, you're empty.
Yeah.
You know, you're not carrying something. I just love when you said you're empty. You're not carrying something. And that is so beautiful. And it's great that you're self-aware.
Absolutely. As you know, having a cancer diagnosis isn't easy. You know, it's like, it was I was fit, I was healthy, I was eating the right things, I was a boxing coach, I've been in the gym for like 30 years. So becoming unwell and getting cancer it weren't on my radar at all. So it was a shock to the system. And I was aware that I needed help navigating that. You know, there was only so much I could do by myself, with my family, with my close friends. But then I needed professional help, people that know how to navigate that space, because that was a space I weren't used to, I hadn't been in before, and I didn't know which road to turn. So for me, getting that help was just a no-brainer. Absolutely not. And I will always encourage men to speak their truth and seek professional help, because for me, game changer, absolute game changer, absolute game changer.
That's amazing. how long did it take you to seek the help? Did you ever sit in silence? Did you, obviously you spoke about moving away from the family? Was it like a year, you said?
Yeah, 18, yeah.
Yeah. So about a year. And so in that time of you walking away, what were your thoughts like? Um, sadness, depression, blah, blah, blah. Obviously these things are, yeah, they do happen. Do you know what I mean? But going through that, did you go through that? Did you go through all them emotions? And how long did it take you to go through to get that professional help?
Absolutely, all of the above. I was in my own funk in the beginning
Hmm.
because I was in treatment. I was on medication, and I had to process all of that as well. And I remember when the day I was diagnosed, my sons were coming over to my apartment and we were going to watch the Arsenal game. And I told them that day, and they were in complete shock. And they just sat, just looking at me.
Mm.
And that's when I knew I kind of needed to have done a better job of telling them, because I told them the day I was diagnosed, and really and truly, I should have processed it more myself. I should have set the scene, and I didn't. I just regurgitated it. They weren't prepared for it, and I weren't prepared for their reaction, which was just like complete shock and complete silence.
Mm.
And that space was quite uncomfortable. And I believe that their initial reaction stopped me from telling other people because of how they responded. And when I took that on board, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going through this myself. I'm also going to need to carry them through this as well.
Hmm.
So that was quite heavy as well.
Mm.
And again, of course, there was the sleepless nights, there was anxiety, there was the stress,
Hmm.
there was the fear of not knowing what's going to happen. Am I going to die? Am I not going to die? All of
Yeah.
these emotions that were swimming around in my head. And based on like I said, how my sons responded, kind of ostracized me. I said, I'm not going to tell my immediate family. So I told 5 people that were around me at the time. And these were the people that were just around my space. And I told them, and, they were a great source of support and strength during that difficult time of me living with cancer at the time and going through treatment.
Mm.
And when I decided to seek the help was because I wasn't sharing enough, I didn't think, and I could feel myself being anxious, being stressed. I'd lost a lot of weight, not sleeping at night,
Hmm.
anxiety. And I just thought I need to speak about this. And apart from those 5 people that I could speak to, I needed to be in a position and a platform where I could get professional feedback.
Hmm.
5 friends were amazing, but I needed more. And
Hmm.
then I think within the year, I kind of went about, locating a psychotherapist and a psychologist.
Wow.
So I did the both.
It took you a year.
About that time, I remember a
Yeah.
time I was in my house. My son was living there at the time, and I remember I was under my pillow crying. And now I was on my bed just crying, just bawling because I had cancer. Life
Of
weren't great
course.
and all of that. And then when my son came in the house, I remember I went under the pillow, so we couldn't hear him, and
Okay.
I kind of covered my face, and I was just crying under the
Wow.
pillow. And then I thought, yeah, I need to kind of, I need help. I need more help than my 5 friends at the time were giving me.
Hmm.
And that was like an indicator. And the fact that I went under my pillow so he couldn't hear me. And I'm not embarrassed about crying. I can cry in front of my son, but that cry,
It
that
was
was
from in the soul.
that was a ball.
Yeah.
That was a ball. And that's when I knew that I needed professional help, and I wanted to fight this and get better.
Hmm.
Not just physically, but
Mentally.
emotionally, yeah,
Yeah.
mentally as well.
Hmm.
Because I know what I felt like, but I didn't know how people could see me.
Yeah.
Like, how do I present?
It's
Was I
another
like
thing.
this?
Yeah.
I didn't know, because
Yeah.
I knew that inside I was broken because
Yeah.
of my diagnosis. And then at that time, my brother and my sister were also on their journeys. And again, it was just heavy, really,
Mm.
really, really heavy to manage and to carry. And it's traumatizing. So I've not only got my trauma,
Hmm.
also the trauma from my siblings as well.
Yeah.
And that's,
Very hard. It's
yeah,
heavy,
that was so heavy.
weighty, very heavy. No, I honestly appreciate, still in awe to be able to talk about it again and now publicly as well. And I know you speak about your story. honestly, especially when I blog, when we was talking before we started filming, so traumatic. Because for me, it's like I go back to that scene and I feel each pain, or the pain of the needle, the pain of the blood test, the pain of the PET scan, the pain of, okay, we're just going to inject you with this. Ink is going to go through. You know, when I'm writing, I'm going back through the smell. It's like I can smell the hospital, but I'm writing, but I'm not there anymore. So it's weird because I can feel everything that you're saying, and I keep on thinking about, yes, it's so hard because you can have the right 5 friends. They can tell you everything. And I would say that at the time, you know, I had one friend, you know, they were saying the right things, but emotionally, you know, like internally, they can't see how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
The problem is people look at you the way you are showing up.
Yeah.
You know, you can be showing up, someone could be showing up, but internally you don't know if they're depressed. You don't know if that person is about to commit suicide.
Yeah.
But they show up because they feel like they always have to be there for someone.
Yeah.
And I think people need to be able to pay attention.
Yeah.
The thing is, people don't pay attention. And this is another thing, because I'm somewhat colorful, I dress well and stuff like that, people expect that all the time.
Yeah.
But that's too much of an expectancy. I'm a human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not a woman of steel. I always say that. I am not a woman of steel.
And you have your moments.
I have my moments.
Yeah.
I have my moments when I'm sad. I have my moments when I'm low. I have my moments when I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
So in that moment, who is able to listen and navigate through that and be like, you know what? Create space for you. Do that. Have your silence. Let's sit down in silence. Cry.
Yeah.
And I'm happy professionally, I can do that. I've gone back to counseling. I'm having counseling now because I know my triggers. So when I'm triggered and I feel a certain way, I'm like, yeah, I need some counseling.
Yeah.
I need to speak to someone.
Yeah.
And also sometimes I feel like I don't want to burden people because the people around me haven't gone through cancer.
Yeah.
My family, my siblings haven't gone through cancer.
Yeah.
When I got the genetic test, the BRCA for me, because it was breast cancer, it showed it doesn't run in my family.
Okay.
My mom, my dad, they haven't had cancer. But you know, I'm a carer for my mom as well. I care for my mom because she's having a stroke twice.
Okay.
But the second one, obviously, there's some bits that she needs more support on.
Okay.
However, being the carer, going through that and stuff like that, there's no one really there to look after you. When people are helping you, it feels like they're rushing around you.
Yeah.
They're not really understanding actually need to process, you know, like we can speak about it during cancer. You know, there was forms I had to do to get benefits, I had to even apply to get my own carer. I self-refer to social care, you know, adult social care, you know, all of these things. It would have been great if someone could just pick it up.
Yeah.
Especially going through the treatment. When I was going through chemo, I was weak, so weak. So it would have been great if the friends that you have around there be like, oh, this person's weak. Maybe let me do this form for them. But no one actually thinks that. They're just like, oh yeah, they're going through it. So they're strong. They're going through that treatment. So they're strong. So it's all right. So honestly, I'm really happy that you've shared that and bringing it back to the community. It's like you've said so much and it's like, I don't know which one to pick because it's like that you advocating for yourself at the hospital. You actually, after a year, within the year, like a year, going to seek help. It's just wow for me. It's just so wow. And I'm just like, I don't know which one to ask him, but it's like I want to try and combine the two. But it's like advocating, like I feel like as a Black woman, I had to advocate for myself a lot. If it's not in the hospital, it's at work. If it's not at work, it's somewhere else. It's could be businesses where I purchase things. I just feel like I'm constantly advocating for myself or fighting to be treated like a human. Yeah. With respect. Absolutely. How I'm giving respect to someone. So is there anything you feel that's kind of unspoken with men, Black men, how you're treated, how you're viewed? Is there things that you feel that you can shed light to the audience and help them navigate?
I think men, I think that, we need to talk more,
Yeah.
about how we're feeling inside, about our emotions.
Hmm.
We need to kind of turn up more as well.
Okay.
For me, I was a single dad with my son for around 17 years, and I couldn't think, I don't understand why men don't want to play a role in their children's lives. And I'm not saying they all do that, but there are a
Okay.
lot of single mothers out there and men not kind of stepping up.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. When it comes to me talking and advocating, I don't understand why others aren't using the opportunity to share their shared and lived experience for others, for the benefit of others.
Hmm.
I think that it's quite unfortunate that I've had this diagnosis, and I'm going to use it and use whichever platform I can to share my story, to raise awareness.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to men and masculinity, they put their masculinity ahead of their health. So when they hear about prostate cancer and the possibility of incontinence, erectile dysfunction, getting the DRE, that is enough to put them off. Hearing that, the size of your penis is going to shrink, you might not get an erection again, all of these things, that is enough to put them off seeking treatment, seeking help.
Wow.
That is just off-putting. So when they hear these stories, they're just like, and especially when you don't feel unwell, why am I gonna go and I don't need to know that. And that happens a lot.
Wow.
When they hear about, when they hear about the side effects, the treatment, what can and can't happen, that's enough to put people off and the help that they need. I don't understand that personally, because I want to live. And if it means I gotta go on a particular journey to live, then let's go on that journey.
I love that.
My time here is not done.
That's it.
And I was very mistrustful of the oncology team. I had to continually remind them to meet me on my level. I don't have a PhD or using language I don't understand. Meet me here. I can't meet you there.
I get
That was something I repeatedly said, and I've spoken to other men that have been in those environments, and they've left the oncology team and not understood a word. So sometimes men are putting themselves in situations and environments where they just feel powerless. They're not asking the right questions. They're not able to advocate for themselves, but they've turned up. And so they have turned up, but then they get lost in the system, and then they don't even understand the process of their treatment, because the language that has been used is so complicated. And I've spoken about this to healthcare professionals in webinars and such, and it doesn't really change, and I think messaging and communicating is so important,
Absolutely.
And I've said to them, talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old, because I want to understand everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
What is that? Where's it going? What's that? That was me. So yeah, it was quite, my appointments were long because I was asking 101 questions.
Yeah.
So I was for them, I was that difficult guy, because you're not doing anything. You need to make me understand. And something's happening. For example, when I had to go for radiotherapy for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
2 months. And I said, why can't you give it to me just in one day and get it over and done with? We can, Mr. Campbell, but it will probably kill you. I was like, say no more.
Say no more, because I'm living, so I get that.
Say no more.
I hear that. No, I hear everything. I feel like what you're saying is like, I keep on like thinking about my journey as well. It just, even though it's not the same journey, there's things that are similar that I'm like, yeah, I got that. With my surgeon, I'll be sitting there with hours. My oncologist, even though he was trying to push me, I'll be like, no, I've got a question. I always had questions prepared.
Yeah.
I think even there was one point at my surgery appointment, I was like, with my surgeon, said to him, can you draw a diagram of what you are saying? Because I don't understand still. I don't get why you cannot do this straight away. It was just the same. I was like, draw the diagram, explain it to me so I can understand. I literally had to do that, because I'm not a person that's ever had surgery before, like you said. I don't really believe in surgeries. That was my thing. I'm like, no, I'm not doing surgery. I've never been that person to be like, okay, this is not right, so I'm just gonna go and get surgery.
When you just said that, sorry to cut you, but it made me think, because there was a part of my journey I thought they were trying to harvest my organs. I actually thought, because all of the symptoms, I never had any of them. So I'm sitting down thinking, this is 2019. I'm fit. I'm in the gym 3-4 times a week, and I'm coaching boxing as well. So I'm on point.
Yeah.
And they're telling me that something's wrong, that I can't feel. And I thought to myself, I wonder if this is how they do it. They pin this diagnosis on you. They say you got this.
Get your Do you know?
I'm telling you that, no word of a lie. I thought they were trying to harvest my organs.
I totally get that. Do you know what? I feel like when cancer diagnosis comes, you start thinking. You just start thinking, because it's not being fun. No, it's not being conspiracy. Apparently that gets done, right? And we see it. We've seen it. We've seen these. Well, we've heard these things.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you thinking that way, because I'm not going to say that I haven't heard about that. I have. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Right now, sometimes I'm thinking, so where did they just chuck that left breast of mine? Exactly. Where's it gone?
When you're unconscious, and it was just a surreal experience for me, having never navigated it before, and I guess that I was quite complicated for them, just like yourself, because I wanted to understand every step of the process.
Yeah.
Everything. I wanted to understand everything you're saying, everything you're doing. You need to change your language. You need to code switch.
Yeah.
So I'm not understanding you right here. And I didn't know I was that guy until I had to be that guy. So yeah, I didn't know I was going to be like that. And then, I just continued to be that guy, support myself and advocate for myself and speak up. And I weren't going to allow myself to be in an environment where I didn't know what was going on. And the only control I had was what I could say. I didn't have, in terms of my treatment options, it was just like a prostatectomy. So they asked me what I wanted, and I'm like, how do I know? I'm not, why would you ask me that? And then they sent me on seminars, I think, so I could look at each process of the surgery and make the best.
That's really good.
Yeah. But when I started, they only gave me that when I started to cuss.
Try and push.
Before that time, what would you like to do? I'm not the oncologist.
I'm not.
I didn't know where my prostate was until this whole process started. I didn't even know the function of it. Nothing like that. And when I'm doing talks now, and I ask men in the audience to raise their hand, still many men don't know where the prostate is, and more importantly, the function of the prostate as well. So education's clear, and it's something that we need to continually do to our community, raise awareness, and make sure that Black people and people of color go for screenings, go for testings, don't ignore the letters. 1 in 2 people are gonna get cancer now. Prostate cancer, 1 in 4 Black men, 1 in 8 white men, 1 in 13 Asian men. So this affects our community much more. And not enough Black men are coming forward to get these tests.
I think it's a shame.
And as well, sometimes, there's the pride, there's the fear. And again, when men go to the GP, why? Why? Have you got a family history? And if you don't know your family, and we have to encourage people to kind of, lie, basically. No, because they're not going to treat you. Because if you say, if you've just watched this podcast and you say, oh, I need to go and check mines, you got no family history, you don't fit the right age bracket, they're just not going to see you. So we have to encourage them. My dad, my uncle, because people are actually scared of this. It's getting young. I was 49 when I was diagnosed. So when I was in the hospital and going to my appointments, I stuck out like a sore thumb, because everyone there was my parents' age. And it was uncomfortable being in those environments, looking like I don't. But Mr. Campbell,
can't see one of you.
Yeah. I was the only man of color there as well. And I'm the youngest by far. So it was like, wow. And then dealing with, being diagnosed with prostate cancer, all of these appointments, like you said, all these testings, it was stressful. It was a difficult time, difficult period.
Imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, no. It's a lot. I feel like we can stay here all day and just continue talking, but I want you to tell us your journey with the treatment and everything. I wanted us to go back on that. How did that feel? I know I have to take you back there, in scenes and emotions, but what was the step like? Obviously, you advocated, you made sure you got what you wanted. How was all of that? In public, because you went away from the family, but I'm sure you had to go out to the public. How was you feeling?
I didn't get this job until after all of my treatment.
Oh.
Yeah, that came much later. I actually started to volunteer for PCR, Men's Health Forum, and PC UK because of how I was spoken to, and I wanted to ensure that other men don't get treated how I got treated.
I love that.
So it was never my plan. The job I was doing before was working with young boys and young men involved in CF youth violence, and I loved that job. I was there like, you know, maybe 14 years.
Wow.
So I loved that job. And my treatment, again, it was when I went to the seminars to see the different kind of treatment options, the radical prostatectomy, you know, it's robotic. And basically they said to me, if they removed the prostate, because it hadn't metastasized, it hadn't left the prostate, it hadn't spread, they think that would have been the best treatment option. So I did what they said, went into hospital, very nervous, very scared, felt like I was in a queue of people, because I was, you know, I got that at 7 o'clock in the morning and it was like there was a queue of us waiting to get our prostates removed. And after that process, I think I kept on getting my PSA checked every 3 months, and it wasn't going down. It was still rising.
Okay.
So I had to have radiotherapy, where they blast the area where the prostate was with beams to get rid of what was left behind, as well as taking hormone medication, which kind of that gutted me. Taking hormone medication, that's when you lose your libido. There was the fatigue, there was the tiredness, there was the rectal bleeding, there was the pain.
Wow.
It was the most depressing part of my journey. And I had to go to the hospital every day for 8 weeks for radiotherapy. And the you know, the nurses there were like, every day they were so consistent. Hi, Mr. Campbell, how are you? They were just so nice all day, every day. And this was peak COVID. But there were times I couldn't deal with that. You know, like in my head, why are you so happy? They were so consistent, and in hindsight, it was really good. But during that time at the cancer center, peak COVID, we had masks on. So everyone I saw in the cancer center was fighting about that cancer, old, white, black, white, young, old, everyone was there. And you couldn't really speak to people because everyone's faces was covered. So you couldn't read their emotion. So for me, that was really, really hard, that process. And just having to go there every day and, you know, check your temperature before you go in. It was a deep breath, because it was just, you know, 8 weeks is a long time.
It is.
Long time to go there. And every time I go there, I had to have, I think, 250 milliliters of water in my bladder, the same amount of water, so I could, it was hard. It was hard. It was painful, painless in terms of the process, but just, yeah, mentally, I think that's what broke me, going there every day and then seeing my sister in there as well. That was really, again, it was just devastating. Devastating seeing her there, knowing that we're on a cancer journey, individual journeys, and those are the moments you go home and you break down and you cry, because you're like, you know, who can I talk to? Yeah, and I don't want to burden my sister with my journey, and I guess she doesn't want to burden me with hers, but it's just like, who can you talk to? Who really understands this, apart from someone that has been on that journey? And again, because of how we present, people just think that you're okay, and I was far from okay.
Yeah,
I was far from okay. So my journey wasn't great. There were really, really low moments when I thought about, you know, what would happen if I'm not here. You know, I had those thoughts and feelings because of the journey, because of the time of the journey, because of, again, it was the pain and the mood swings and the mental challenges I was going through. It was just hard. It was just hard. And had I not had the specialist help, things might have been different for me. But I'm glad I, you know, was able to put myself out there, to allow myself to be vulnerable, to speak to these strangers about my fears, my concerns, my journey. And in turn, they were able to give me the help and the support that I needed to navigate, you know, this new version of me, because it is a new version. It is a new version.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not the same, and you know, and as you know, you still have those sleepless nights and those deep fears about, you know, is this going to come back?
The
That's
ghost
the one thing.
on your shoulder,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy you mentioned that.
Yeah, because I do think
people don't get that.
Is it going to come back? And every time you feel
How
something,
long do you have to live?
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you feel something, could that be it? Could that be it?
Yeah. Literally, that's me. That's me. Like, oh my goodness, I'm happy that you mentioned that, because that is literally me. If I feel a bit of pain, I'm like, oh, and I stay silent though. I don't tell anyone. I feel a bit of pain. I just don't tell anyone. Oh, I don't know if this is back.
And how do you stop yourself from instantly going from there to there? As soon as you pay, oh, could it be
100?
How do you stop yourself?
100, 1 to 100, 0 to 100.
Yeah. That's exactly what I do. You know, and it's difficult to not think that way.
Yeah.
You know, But we're blessed because I'm sure, just
Amen.
like me, many people that haven't made it this far.
Yeah.
My dad didn't make it this far. He passed in 2021, and
Wow.
and in the groups that
Sorry
we
to
run
hear
at
that.
CVC,
Yeah.
people are passing all the time. So I'm glad that I was able to. If I hadn't have seen that advert on telly when I was 40
Yeah.
years old, I wouldn't have gone. And the messaging from the other cancer charities, they don't speak to me. When I look at their messaging, it's not calling me. So there's no reason for me to look at that because you're not talking to me.
Yeah.
And although I've been in this role
And
now
they're probably
2
not showing
years,
someone like you as well.
but even now I still don't think they're talking to me. More needs to be done to talk directly to me. So if I see that, I'll be like, what is that over there? And I can go on, then I can read, but you're not talking to me.
Yeah.
I
realize that as well. With some charities, I realize that as well. I don't see a one over me, or they're just not speaking my language. Literally.
Messaging is important. How you communicate is important.
Yeah.
And it needs to change for different environments, for different cultures. It can't be a one size fits all because
exactly.
the way we take on board and view and see information is all different. So all the information has to be different.
Yes.
And I don't think we're quite there yet.
But we have people like you, me, and other people
Absolutely.
that are talking and speaking up and using their voice for strength.
Absolutely.
And to encourage people to make an impact. You're making a great impact.
Thank you.
And everything you've said today is just mind-blowing. And it's just, wow. Like, although sometimes you may look at yourself, or during the week you may feel weak, or you may feel low, just know the strength and the power that you carry, because every day you choose. And what I liked what you said earlier is that you choose to live. You want to live.
Yeah.
And you declare that your time is not over. And I love that because it just resonates with a class that I had yesterday where they said that life is worth living.
Yeah.
And you see the worth of living and fighting and advocating and also helping others. Whilst you're fighting, you're helping someone else save their life. You're helping someone else heal. You're helping someone else have hope. And you're also helping someone to have a voice, to speak up. Because a lot of times we don't speak up. And that is in even different experiences, different traumas. It may not even be illnesses, There's people that get raped, and they get silenced and they don't speak up, or molested, they don't speak up. But your voice just helps everybody to speak up. Our voices. Yeah, I love that. Our voices. Our voices help people start speaking. Because when you speak, you don't know who you're going to heal, and you don't know how you become that miracle for that person.
My brother's a percussionist and he was playing drums, and he plays drums at gigs. And my brother he recorded his journey.
Okay.
And he remember at a gig, some person came up to him and he was like, "Thank you for sharing your story. It gives me hope." And my brother was like, okay. And he didn't know how it was going to be received. But when that random person came up to him and thanked him for sharing his story, he was like, okay, I need to do more of this. And that's kind of what it is, because we are helping people out there, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And someone's got to do it. And like I said, the lived experience is key. Those are the voices that need to be on those platforms. Those are the voices that the government and the ministers need to listen to, because we've been there, we've seen it, we've done it, and we're now in a position to talk about it.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. As we close, I just wanted to ask you, what has this whole experience taught you about life?
Taught me about life, not to take it for granted. I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm more resilient than I thought I was. That I'm gonna live each day like it's my last. Like I'm gonna cherish the special moments with my family, with my children and my grandchildren, and I'm gonna live like a king.
Yes.
I'm gonna live like a king, and I'm gonna continue to do me.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to talk about sort of cancer and prostate cancer and the disparities that we face. I'm going to challenge the status quo.
I love that.
And I'm going to keep on keeping on, And I just want to effect positive change for the work that we're doing for Cancer Black Care.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want everyone to have a platform, to have a voice. I want to amplify the unheard voices in the harder to reach communities.
I love that.
You know, and make sure that they have a place, they have a space, they have a platform, and they don't feel alone because, as you know, this can be a lonely journey,
Absolutely.
and no one should kind of face cancer alone. You know, it
Honestly.
shouldn't. And I, you know, I know I'm saying, and I kind of did it, but you know, it was something that I regret. I think
Mm.
I'd do it differently
Mm-hmm.
because I think that my family are very supportive and always have been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah.
I love that. You've told men, black men, to speak and be vulnerable. What else would you tell them, or anybody that's going through illness, that's a man, or anyone that is going through mental health? Mental health doesn't literally mean someone that's lost their mind.
Yeah.
You know, what would you tell someone, a man watching this video right now?
I'd say talking is the first part to healing. I think that don't suffer in silence. I think talk to your friends, talk to your family, seek support groups, online support groups. You know, if it means making an appointment and getting more professional help, then you should do that. But I think that, you know, being stuck in the funk in your own head isn't good. You know, you must always share, you know, to your loved ones, to your friends, whoever. You know, don't get caught in that cycle where you think that you can't talk about it or you shouldn't talk about it, you shouldn't share, or you shouldn't share it because you should. You know, we're all human, we're all the same. And I think it's so important, it's so key to find those spaces, to find those platforms where you can vent, where you can share,
Mm.
when you can be open and honest and transparent. And if there aren't people out there that can help you do that, then there are services out there. And you should kind of, you know, help yourself to, you know, to look for those services and make sure that you get the help that you need.
Amazing. Thank you. And two more questions. What does strength mean to you? And why Cancer Black Care? Why did you choose to work there? And tell us about that as well.
So when I was going through my journey, I, like I said earlier, I was advocating for a few charities,
Mhm.
and then someone put the job spec of CBC. They sent it to me, and I was like, I could do that. There were some things there that I couldn't do, but I'm like, I could do that.
Mhm.
And I went for it. I applied for it, and I got called up for interview. I was shocked. And I remember going, and you know, my last interview was probably McDonald's when I was 16.
Bless you.
So I remember being in this room and, you know, I had to do a presentation and, you know, there were a couple of medical professionals in there. I just spoke my truth.
Mhm.
What I couldn't do, I said I couldn't do. And I think what done it for me because was the lived experience. I'm not a medical expert. I'm an expert
Mhm.
from lived experience. And then they said to me, I got the job, and it was an opportunity to lead from the front. It was opportunity to share my story, to
Mhm.
share my sibling story,
Mm.
to guide this amazing charity that's been going since 1995.
Wow.
I mean, it was an opportunity to bring it back on the map, to support Black people and people of
Yeah.
color. The emphasis is to support Black people and people of color, to give them a space, to give them a
Yeah.
platform, to
Yes.
amplify their voices, to remove the fear, the bitterness, the misunderstanding,
Mhm.
to ensure that Black people don't suffer from preventable and treatable cancers due to a lack of information, advice, and
Yeah.
guidance. To make sure that the messaging is clear. So if I'm
Yeah.
talking to you from our messaging and our posts, you know I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
And I think that you know we've done that. We've made huge changes in what we're doing at CBC, and we're starting to get into those spaces where we didn't get into before. I've been invited to Buckingham Palace, number
Oh, love
10,
that.
House of Commons. I've been to Madrid in Spain to present.
I
You
love
know,
that.
I've met the government ministers that are doing the 10-year cancer plan. So I've sat
Yeah.
around the table. So we're in those spaces, and
Good.
being the chief exec is, you know, gets me into those rooms, gets me into those spaces, and I guess what we're doing, you know, on our social media,
Mhm.
you know, in the background of our groups is
Mhm.
also helping as well, pushing us, promoting us, and getting us into those spaces where those doors were normally closed, but now we're kind of kicking them open,
Opening. You're booting them open.
booting them open.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to be in, you know, and I feel, you know, the charity is well represented, and, you know, I'm very comfortable in those spaces now.
I love that. And what does strength mean to you now?
What does strength mean to me? I'd say talking my truth.
Okay.
allowing myself to be vulnerable,
Okay.
um, allowing myself to using myself as a tool for others,
Mm-hmm.
um, being able to to drive and to lead and to evolve the charity,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to continue living my best life while I'm navigating my role, being a father, being a grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
and just waking up every day with purpose and conviction, not giving up, and fighting. I want to be here, for a long time, and and also kind of having my peace,
Mm.
knowing when I need to step away and take that break, and you know and as well, strength is kind of looking after my mental and my physical
Absolutely.
repeatedly, and self-reflection.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I love that.
thank you.
Honestly, I really love that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming to Her Voice, Her Strength.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's been a pleasure, honestly. But before you go, you need to tell us where to find you, your Instagrams, your handles, all of that jazz, so that people can find you. Anyone that could be going through it, they can connect with CBC,
Yep.
connect with you on Instagram.
Yep.
Anyone that, a young man or
Yep.
older man that can connect with you.
So on X, on TikTok, on LinkedIn,
Wow.
on YouTube,
Wow.
and on Insta, it's all Cancer Black Care. One word, all Cancer Black Care. And if you go to our website, www.cancergapblackcare.org.uk, there's a lot more information about our groups in South London, in Brent, about the sessions that we run, and general information that will help you navigate your journey as well.
Amazing.
Thank
You
you
so much. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for watching another episode on Her Voice, Her Strength. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like this video and share this video. You have to share this video because someone out there needs a miracle, a healing. Miracles are not always, bam, something physical, but a miracle could be your healing. So don't stop anyone from hearing our voices today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again on another video.